welcome back, you freedom lovers, you truth seekers, and all you hardworking, tax-paying Americans. Welcome back to the Conservative Cat Show. I'm your host, Conservative Cat. I'm the feline that has my claws sharpened for the constitutional clarity and common sense. Constitutional clarity and common sense. We're going to get to all of it here on Conservative Cat. It's a daily show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Time. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow me on Rumble and support the program by buying a bottle of Patriot Pump today. Use promo code Conservative Cat. It's the best promo code out there. $10 off at checkout. Let's get into today. Sanctuary state or sovereign circus? Pritzker would rather be arrested than uphold the federal immigration laws. We're going to get to that. Protests, pandering, and paychecks. Chicago's war on law and order. All of these protests. One is planned for Bloomington, Illinois this Saturday. It's called No King's Day. It's very carefully planned. It's backed by the CCP. This is really dangerous stuff, guys. We're going to get into that, but we're also going to get into that Democrat senator who attempted to aggressively confront the Trump cabinet secretary. You know, I don't know about you, but this is not the administration to go engage aggressively with, right? Donald Trump was shot in the face at one of his rallies prior to him becoming president. And I don't know about you, but if you or I were to act out like Senator Padilla had done, I don't know if we'd be alive today. He got very, very close to her. I think the only reason that he didn't get shut down right there in that room and they tried to push him and escort him out, the only reason why they didn't arrest him right there was because he was a sitting senator. And he did later identify himself, but he got very close to Kristi Noem there. And he got dropped and put down by her security, the Department of Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. So her security dropped him. Good, but he's very lucky to have not been hurt or had it much worse, because if you or I were to have done that, that's a threat to the Trump administration. That's a threat to our sitting cabinet member, and he got very close to her. In those types of situations, those people are trained to take you down. So we're going to get to all of it here today. Today, we're scratching at a story that truly defines the absurdity of progressive politics. Our good old Governor J.B. Pritzker is once again making headlines. How embarrassing. Not because he's balancing the budget or because he's securing your streets. No, folks, it's time. This time, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he's in the headlines this morning saying he'd rather be arrested than see immigrants frightened or terrorized in his sanctuary state. That's right. While your neighborhoods struggle with crime, taxpayers are footing the bill for non-citizens and their health care. Pritzker is out there gearing up to play martyr for illegal immigrants. You can't make this up. And I say, do it. I say arrest him. If he wants to be arrested, he literally said, I'd rather be arrested than uphold federal immigration law. Then do it. Let's dig into this, okay? Now, during a congressional hearing yesterday, Governor J.B. Pritzker stood proudly beside New York Governor Kathy Hochul, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and, you know, this is the liberal trifecta of open borders RS, okay, RS, you know, it's Toys R Us, open borders RS, okay? This is the liberal trifecta. And when asked about the Trump administration potentially enforcing federal immigration laws against sanctuary policies, Hochul said, go for it. And Pritzker? Yeah, well, he said, arrest me first. So you have Kathy Hochul, another liberal, saying, yes, enforce federal immigration law. I'd be okay with that. And then you've got Governor J.B. Pritzker saying, I'd rather be arrested. Let me ask you, folks. When's the last time you ever heard this governor say that or offer to get arrested for you, for your property taxes, for your kids failing schools, for your small business that's suffocating under regulation? He wouldn't be a martyr for you. Of course not. Never. Illegal immigrants violating federal law? Hell yeah, Pritzker's ready to get cuffed like he's at a protest rally. So let's talk the money, because this is where it's all at, okay? This is where it hits us all. Congressman Brandon Gill of Texas asked the governor point blank how much illegal immigration costs Illinois taxpayers for all of its sanctuary state business, which means healthcare for illegal immigrants, legal aid for illegal immigrants through nonprofit organizations. He asked him, hey, how much does it cost your state? Pritzker couldn't answer. Surprise, surprise. You'd think a guy pushing these policies would have this number ready. Wrong. Instead, he deflected and blamed, wait for it, drum roll please, he blamed the federal government. Classic move, just totally classic. But here's what the numbers really show. Illinois taxpayers, we have shelled out more than, estimates say, $3 billion, 1.6 to $3 billion. Okay. 1.6, because it's kind of hard to tell, because they're funneling money into these nonprofit organizations, and then these nonprofit organizations are providing aid and comfort to the illegal immigrants. Some of them going as far as to provide them legal aid, so attorneys to avoid legal deportation orders. Okay, so just in healthcare alone, the past 3 years, 1.6 billion. Okay, just in healthcare alone. So we know it's much more than 1.6 billion. But that doesn't even touch the other costs like housing, schooling, because guess what? Illegal immigrant children can go to schools. How do you put a number on that, right? How many teachers does one illegal immigrant child have? And how much salary are we paying those teachers to teach illegal immigrants? I mean, you know what I mean? Public safety, social services, food stamps, all that stuff. You can't really put a number on it. It's insane, the amount that we're spending on illegal immigration. Meanwhile, and Governor J.B. Pritzker is sitting there, and I don't know what the hell was going on. I think that this was all very planned. Well, I know it was planned. The Democrat congressmen who asked Governor J.B. Pritzker questions, they all led with how Illinois is the greatest state in the country. And like they said, we've got the biggest economy, which they go by when they say that we have the 5th largest economy. Yeah, because we spend $55 billion, and they go off of our spending. And prior to Governor J.B. Pritzker, our budget was at $30 billion, and it's ballooned by $20 billion. Insanity. But they didn't mention how we have $140 billion in pension debt here in the state of Illinois. Oh, no. You would think that your leaders would want to protect the residents who actually fund the system. Okay, he says that he's willing to be arrested for illegal aliens, but he's not willing to be arrested for you who fund these illegal aliens and fund the system that helps them exist here in the state of Illinois. Let's take a listen to a little bit of the congressional, this is the House Oversight Committee hearing. This happened yesterday. We're going to be playing lots of clips from this, but let's take a listen. Here we go.
So if federal agents were to come to your door, to the governor's mansion, approach your security staff to arrest you, you have Tom Homan on the news saying, I want to arrest Governor Hochul, Governor Pritzker, Governor Walz. What do you do? What do you say? I'm just curious.
Thank you, Congressman. Let me begin by saying I have the highest duty to protect the people of my state. And indeed, if Tom Homan were to come to try to arrest us, I can say, first of all, that he can try. I can also tell you that I will stand in the way of Tom Homan going after people who don't deserve to be frightened in their communities, who don't deserve to be threatened, terrorized. I would rather that he came and arrested me than do that to the people of my state.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Pritzker, do you know how much illegal immigration costs your state each year?
No, sir, I do not.
Costs over $780 per family per year. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And may I ask, what do you mean by the cost?
That is a lot of money.
The cost of illegal immigration.
Let me ask you, do you know who Franklin Jose Pena Ramos is?
Are you talking about the federal government's cost to the state of Illinois as a result of the failed
Ramos says
immigration policy?
It's a yes or no question. I'll take that as a no.
Governor Pritzker, You do not keep track of any public service dollars in the state of Illinois that goes to illegal immigrants or goes to people in your state who are not legal residents of the United States and of the state of Illinois. You don't keep track of that.
We absolutely keep track of our budget. We're very closely, and in fact, it's been balanced for 7 years in a row, unlike the Republican before me. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I noticed that in the state of Illinois, you guys don't really keep track of your money, because I asked your mayor in Chicago similar question about a month ago, and he didn't have an answer. It was quite interesting. I think this might be an Illinois problem. Governor Hochul, in your state, you are spending about roughly $4 billion.
Here's the point. Terror. That's what they're doing here. This hearing is a witch hunt against the governors that run successful cities, and we need to call it what it is.
Wow. That was insanity. So Illinois is facing 2 lawsuits currently right now from the Department of Justice, one of them challenging the state's law that prohibits local and state law enforcement from cooperating with federal immigration officials on civil detention orders. So what does that mean? It means, hey, we found out Maria has violated her work visa. We need you to hold her until we could question her about her violating her work visa. Local and state officers cannot do that. Illinois, like I said, facing 2 lawsuits from the Department of Justice. Sanctuary state policies are not just dangerous, they're very expensive. Illinois is telling our law enforcement, our officers, that they can ignore federal immigration orders, and that's reckless, but it's also illegal. And you know who gets ignored? You get ignored. And if you were to break the law, you wouldn't be ignored. So, for example, if you didn't pay your property taxes, just try not paying your property taxes one time. Or try parking in the wrong spot downtown. Your car's going to be towed. You got to pay the city. Okay. So you're ignored. Your taxing, your tax burden is ignored. Your communities are ignored. You're not provided public safety. But you won't be ignored, say you break the law. Even like stupid ones, like parking in the wrong spot downtown, right? But if you cross our border illegally and violate federal immigration law, you get this welcome mat, the sanctuary state welcome mat, and a free ride to the front of the line being the benefits line. You get a free ride to the front. Now, does that sound like a state looking out for its own? Does that sound like the best state in the nation, as Governor J.B. Pritzker said Illinois was? Like, come on. So who you heard there was Delia Ramirez. She's a Democrat from Chicago. Of course, it gets very absurd here when she claims that Trump's efforts to enforce immigration law are out of an authoritarian playbook. Democrats referred to the Trump administration as the new Gestapo. Authoritarian? Really? Let me tell you what authoritarian looks like. Number 1, forcing taxpayers to fund policies they didn't vote for. I didn't vote for ICER. I didn't vote for ICER being the immigrant coalition of refugee rights, and they provide legal aid to illegal immigrants. I didn't vote for that, yet 63 million taxpayer dollars just in 8 months went to that organization. And then you have refusing to cooperate with federal enforcement. So this is authoritarianism because we are the United States of America. And I'm going to get to that here in a second, because Pritzker is straight up, he wants to make Illinois Pritzkerstan. Okay. Pritzkerstan being a separate nation, that of the United States. I would not be surprised if he drafts up some sort of secession documents and presents them. He's one step from seceding from the Union, from the United States of America, I believe. And I have factual evidence to provide you that Governor J.B. Pritzker is operating as if he is his own country. Okay, Pritzkerstan. This is no longer the state of Illinois. This is Pritzkerstan. Okay. So they're refusing to cooperate with federal law enforcement. They're threatening constitutional order by undermining the rule of law. Okay. If anything, this is a progressive power grab in Illinois, and it reeks of authoritarianism. Okay. The sanctuary state crap, all of that reeks of authoritarianism because you are operating outside of the United States of America's federal laws, federal immigration laws. So, for the record, Democrats, they can't win the argument. So that's why they start yelling authoritarian, Gestapo, racist, fascist every single time. It's tired, it's predictable, and quite frankly, it's just insulting to your intelligence and my intelligence. So where are their priorities? Folks, let's not lose sight of the bigger picture. Sanctuary state policies are not about compassion. They're about control. Okay, it's about importing votes. It's about virtue signaling to far left activists while ignoring families, the veterans, the working class citizens who have families and who pay into this system to fund all of these people, the far left activists and the illegal immigrants. Okay, we pay into that system to fund their damn protests. I'm going to get to that here in a second as well. And we're just struggling to make ends meet, and they're taking your money to prop up these people. It's like freaking charity. If I wanted to donate to some of these nonprofits, I would. But guess what? I don't give a damn about any of their causes. Okay. Pritzker, he may want to be arrested. And I think that we should arrest him. I really do. And I'll get to why here in a second, because he has, outside of any other governor in this nation, has operated as a global leader. And that's rebellion, and that should not be rewarded. That should be punished. He should be arrested, and he should have to answer for his alleged crimes. I'm going to say, well, he hasn't been charged with them yet, but somebody needs to do something. He's blowing your tax dollars. He's putting illegal immigrants above citizens. And he's turning Illinois into a national embarrassment. And the people of this state deserve better. You deserve a government that prioritizes your safety, prioritizes fiscal responsibility. We're doling out, what was it? I mean, $1.6 billion in just the last 3 years for healthcare alone. That doesn't include, people estimate $3 billion just this past year. We have $140 billion in pension debt. That's not fiscally responsible. We deserve a government that prioritizes the rule of law and not somebody who plays a political martyr for illegal immigration. That's literally what Pritzker's doing here. He's being a political martyr, and he says, arrest me, because he wants to make headlines. And really, I think it's maybe more about a 2028 run. I think it was planned where these Democrat congressmen had gone up there and said that Illinois is the best state ever, that we have the 18th largest economy in the world or whatever. And they tried to pretty much run PR for the state of Illinois, because that's going to be his biggest hurdle if he were to run in 2028. The state really looks bad when you take a look at the highest property taxes in the nation. You take a look at our pension debt. You take a look at our just continually raising. I think it was $800 million to $1 billion in taxes were raised this last session, this last budget. So I want to get to the pro. This is where lessness is not for crime, not parade. This is happening on Saturday all across the nation, and these are organized. Okay, you've got the teachers. Okay, I think I'm live. I don't know. I think that I'm alive. We'll have to see. I think I'm having issues. It's probably JB coming after me. Who knows? No. We're live. We're talking about Chicago. We're talking about the protest. They're making national headlines once again. If you can see me, if you can hear me, throw it in the comment section. That's just going to help me out with the stream today. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're watching. Subscribe, like the button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. Follow me on Rumble and follow my Conservative Cat Facebook page. That really helps me out, guys. Let's talk about Chicago, Chicago's teachers union, progressive nonprofits, trans activist groups, the usual alphabet soup of far left organizations. They're all teaming up to shut down law enforcement and defend illegal immigration this weekend. And there's one target, President Donald J. Trump. And let's call this what it is. It is a desperate stunt by a failing political machine, by the way, because Donald Trump has caught on to their little scheme. They've defunded the USAID that funds a lot of these nonprofit groups that are going to be doing these organized protests. This is clearly an insurrection. It's organized. It's violent. And it's organized by foreign adversaries. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. But you, the taxpayer, you're funding the whole damn show. Okay, they're going to be putting on a show June 14th in Bloomington, actually, Illinois. The BCPA, they've been doing these every other weekend. These are very carefully planned and they're crafted by the CCP. So this Saturday, a radical group known as Indivisible Chicago is going to be hosting a protest in Daly Plaza. It's titled No King's Day. There's another one in Bloomington titled No King's Day. So this is kind of ironic because if anybody's acting like royalty, it's not Donald Trump. It's the Chicago activist class. They demand your obedience. They demand your taxpayer cash, and they want zero accountability. And there have been bricks now that have been shipped into Chicago. I saw it on the metro. I don't know who's behind that, but this is really bad. This is going to get really bad. Somebody's going to get hurt severely. And this is all done on CCP dime. Let me get to that here in just a second. But they claim that the protest against authoritarianism, and really what this is, it's an organized tantrum against federal immigration law. And what China is trying to do, they're trying to destroy us from within. Same thing with TikTok. Okay, I like TikTok. I'm on TikTok. You guys can find me there. However, they're trying to destroy our youth from within with this social media app, which is why Donald Trump had banned it, but he brought it back because of the outrage, and I don't understand why. And he tried to negotiate with China, but I don't know. I just think that we should ban it because really what they're doing, they're harvesting data from American citizens, and they're trying to attack America from within. Okay. They're doing this in other countries like Africa, Latin America. They're providing them debt trap loans. So infrastructure loans that these poor countries will never be able to pay off. So what winds up happening is China says, okay, if you can't pay it off, then we're going to come in and we're going to pretty much take over your country now. And that's been going on in Africa, and it's strategic because they want Africa, which is right below Europe, and they want Latin America, which is right below North America, South America. Okay, so this is all designed by the CCP, and they're trying to infiltrate America from within, okay, because it's a different strategy, because they can't attack us overtly or come in like they did in Africa or Latin America, like physically, because we've got the best damn fighting force known to man, the United States military, okay? So the enforcement of our existing laws, this is what we need, and they're protesting that. That's exactly what they're protesting, is our existing laws. So this is destroying America from within. These are not new laws. This is not some sort of executive overreach. Okay, this is just the basic job of ICE. They're calling for the abolishment of ICE. ICE has been around forever. Okay, and they're just doing the basic job of ICE, which is to enforce this law. And Congress already gave the power to ICE a long, long time ago to enforce these laws. So here's the kicker. They're organizing this while ICE agents are being attacked. Police cars are being vandalized. You've got streets that are being blocked. People need to get through. They're going to the hospital. They're trying to get their kids to daycare, whatever it is. On Tuesday alone, 200 vehicles were just completely trashed. 17 protesters were arrested, and they say nonviolent, nonviolent, nonviolent. Okay, sounds like, remember that CNN reporter? If you look behind me, it's mostly peaceful. No, these are fiery protests where they're torching cars, okay? But let's talk about the funding. I really want to get into this because one of the groups backing this protest in Chicago, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, or ICER, that's what I call them, and they received $63 million in taxpayer money just in the past 8 months, okay? Just like from, I think it was like July, I don't know. They like in an 8-month period of time, they received $63 million. That's according to the comptroller vendor payment system. That's your money. That's money that should be going to public safety, mental health services, fixing your damn potholes and the collapsing bridges, I-80, right? The most dangerous bridge in the nation, the bridge over the I-80 bridge or something. So instead of fixing all of that, they're going to groups that shout out things like ICE needs to be abolished, and they're demanding open borders. And these neighborhoods in Chicago, they can't even get a reliable police presence anymore because officers are being pulled downtown to babysit, really, these activists. So Alderman Sylviana Tabers, so I don't even like this woman, but she said it the best. While CPD was pulled from their districts to go downtown to handle these wannabe revolutionaries, people are still being shot, robbed, and battered across Chicago. So what happens when you have these types of protests? There's a lot of things that happen. But number one would be that the police presence in already struggling police force, because everybody left the police force after George Floyd because they said, to hell with this. I'm not going to be caught on social media for doing my job and then being called a racist. I'm done with policing. They left the force, or they went to other states to go police, red states to go police, but an already struggling Chicago PD, they're going to be pulled to one area and they can't go and police the other areas. But don't worry, Mayor Brandon Johnson, he's got the solution. He's calling for everyone to resist. Resist what? Resist law enforcement, resist immigration officers, resist the Constitution. Speaking of Mayor Johnson, let's scratch into that little fur ball, okay? He's urging Chicago to rise up and do a nonviolent resistance, okay? And he's quoting Martin Luther King, as if this guy stands for civil rights, okay? And as if Martin Luther King would stand shoulder to shoulder with these activists and rioters breaking windows, chanting things like abolish ICE. MLK would have never done this, okay? Let me say this loud and clear. MLK Jr., he stood for justice, not anarchy, and it's insulting to invoke his name while turning a blind eye to real victims, the working class American people who are crushed by crime, illegal labor. They're given jobs to illegal immigrants via the H-1B visa system. That's being weaponized. But they're also giving them to immigrants because they can work for like 60% less or something crazy like that than the American because it's slave labor. Hey, I'm going to use your status against you, and you're going to watch my kids, you're going to watch my parents. I mean, this is what they said out loud during the congressional hearing, the committee hearing. They literally out loud said, these people will watch our parents for us. They're going to watch our kids and mow our lawns. Like, this is indenture. Like, they want slavery. They want slavery back, the Democrats. And that's what this is also about. They want the illegal immigrants here so that way they can do the jobs that the elitists want them to do for cheap. Okay, because despite them having billions of dollars and way more money than you and I would ever see in our lifetime, they would much rather hire Maria than you to watch their own parents, okay, their elderly parents, these congressmen, women, and these elitists, these Democrat elitists. They would much rather hire Maria, the illegal immigrant, because she'll do it for 60% less, despite them having billions. They could easily pay an American daycare and send their kids to the best daycare. No, they'd rather pay the illegal immigrant Maria to do it for 60% less. Johnson warns us that Trump, he has a state militia, okay, at his disposal if violence breaks out. So that's what Johnson warned. I hope that, yes, the Marine Corps is deployed. I hope that, yes, the National Guard is deployed and we stop these violent rioters, because these people are an infection and they are harming the rest of society. Okay. The rest of society, they're blocking traffic. They can't go to work. They're causing a disruption. And I hope that the National Guard comes in. I hope that Trump's the National Guard, or even the Marine Corps, if it gets that bad, to where you need that type of training to come in and shut these people down. Because let's not forget, this is a foreign protest. These are carefully organized, planned foreign protests by the CCP. So we need to treat it like the infiltration that it is. They're trying to destroy the country from within, the CCP. And I promise I'm going to get to the numbers. I promise I'm going to get to the people who are behind this. When protesters light fires, block highways, someone needs to step in and protect the rights of law-abiding citizens. And Donald Trump will do that if it gets out of hand and if it is violent. And they're already violent. And like I told you, there's been photographs of the bricks, the pallets of bricks coming in. I don't know who's sending them, but obviously this is organized. So during a city council hearing in Chicago, and this is something you're not going to hear on CNN, there was a resident, and he's an ordinary resident, not a politician. He stood up and told the truth, and he told it like it is. He goes, quote, "This is out of control. This is unacceptable. It's un-American. What party do they belong to? The Democrats." That's what George Blakemore said. He's a normal citizen, like just a ordinary citizen. Boom, mic drop, go George. Because at the end of the day, this is not about Trump. This is not about ICE. This is about a political party who embraces lawlessness. And really, they're not even Democrats. They're just CCP back. Like, quite literally, they're bought and paid for by the CCP. I'm convinced of that now. And they cheer for chaos. They cheer for anything that furthers their agenda, which is the takedown of the United States of America. And they're Marxists. That's really what it is. They want to take down America, and they want globalism, and they want China to come in and take us all over. Really, I think that's what the Democrat Party is. And these are the same people who are calling Trump an authoritarian. Like, come on, no. He's not the one using taxpayer money to fund these protests against rule of law. You want authoritarian? Try being a Chicagoan who disagrees with the left. You want to see what authoritarian looks like? It's this. Try showing up to defend ICE at one of these protests. You will die. You will die. If you were to show up to one of these protests, I'm not kidding you, you're going to die or get hurt very badly, because these are authoritarian soldiers, okay? And they're working on behalf of an authoritarian regime, which is the CCP, whether they know it or not. And you will be shouted down, you will be canceled, you will be doxxed, or worse. I've had it happen to me, folks. I showed up to one protest. I counter-protested Governor J.B. Pritzker's appearance in Miller Park one time. I had the Washington Post on my ass. I had people doxing me. I had people sending me packages in the mail. You show up one time and you make your voice heard at one of these Democrat protests, you will be doxxed and you will be hurt. Okay, so my recommendation, don't go. I really, like, don't go. Don't try to speak out for ICE, because what we're dealing with here is something that is completely out of your hands and requires military, because really what this is, it's a foreign adversary that is taking over our country. These are carefully planned, carefully organized. They have weaponry being shipped in. I mean, bricks, pallets of bricks being shipped in. This requires military force. Okay. And if you show up to these, you're going to get hurt or worse. Okay. So let's be clear, folks. This is not about protesting constitutional rights. It's not about free speech. What we're seeing in Chicago isn't a protest. It's a performance. It's not even a performance. I would say it's an infiltration. And this is political theater, and it's all wrapped up in manipulation, and it's subsidized by you with your paycheck. And it's all protected by these spineless politicians who are afraid of the CCP. At the end of the day, that's what it is. These spineless politicians who are afraid of the CCP, they take the taxpayer dollars in their state and they funnel it into these nonprofit organizations. These nonprofit organizations, a lot of these people are useful idiots. I don't think that they're aware that they're working for the CCP, but they are. And we've got to stop letting activists run the show while real people suffer. It's time to start asking where our money is going, and it's time to start calling out Governor J.B. Pritzker for making Illinois Pritzker stand and acting as a global leader, and really acting, I think, on behalf of a foreign adversary. I mean, look at what happened with Goshen. He's already signed a bill that takes us away from the FDA for public health standards. That is our federal authority, okay? And he's transitioned us to the WHO for our public health standard. He signed a bill like that, folks. I mean, it's very clear. He doesn't want Illinois to be a part of the United States. He wants it to be either a part of China or his own little Pritzker stand, okay? We've got to stop appeasing these mobs. We got to stop giving them taxpayer money. So to Mayor Johnson, to the Chicago Teachers Union, to every protester out there this Saturday, we hear you and we're not playing along. We know exactly what this is. And we got to talk about the guy today who seems to think that he has or is a global emperor. Okay, that because I think that's what Governor J.B. Pritzker thinks he is. He thinks that he is a global emperor. Governor J.B. Pritzker has not just mismanaged Illinois, but he is running a shadow country, his own shadow country. And let me talk about this. Paulina Luna, she blew the whistle about the Chinese Communist Party during the congressional hearings yesterday, okay? These are backed protesters, CCP-backed protesters, and they're showing up in our backyard, okay? And Americans are being demonized for waving the American flag, supporting the Constitution, and somehow it's totally acceptable and it's free speech if you've got CCP-funded fronts to flood our streets. And you know who rolled out the red carpet, by the way, for CCP interests? That's Governor J.B. Pritzker. I told you about Goshen. Goshen is a Chinese CCP-backed, allegedly ties to the CCP. There's not a direct connection, but they have it in their bylaws that, like quite literally in Goshen, has it in their bylaws that everything they do should be in furtherance of the CCP. Okay, so there's ties there. They're a Chinese-backed battery company, and it was planned for Manteno, it's still planned for Manteno, Illinois. And they've got ties to this communist regime. And Illinois greenlit them. But not only that, Pritzker smiled for the cameras, despite security risk, national security risk. Who cares? Let's pay him $536 million in tax credits. And then what did Goshen go do? They bought up farmland from Tim Nugent, the mayor, his family, his entire family's farmland, their estate. Goshen bought it for way above market value price and paid off these politicians, and they're buying up this farmland in Manteno, Illinois. It's insanity. And they're, like I said, the FDA, he gave over control of he signed a bill, and it gives the World Health Organization authority in this state. So outside of the FDA, I mean, this is the Federal Drug Administration. Okay. So this is really, really bad because our public health standard should come from people. The World Health Organization is a product of the CCP. Okay, this is an unelected global bureaucracy, no actual scientists, no actual doctors. The FDA is made up of doctors and scientists here in the United States. Now they have more of a say over Illinois health policy, the WHO, than the federal government here, the U.S. federal government. He just signed a bill. This is huge. So you couple that with what's going on with Goshen. This isn't just dangerous, okay? And I'm not kidding. This is insubordinate. This is unconstitutional. And it begs the question, who is Governor J.B. Pritzker working for? Is he working for the people of Illinois, or is he working for the World Economic Forum, the Davos elite? And you thought it stopped at just policy? Hell no, it's not just policy, okay? So Goshen, WHO, all of that is policy, but it doesn't stop there. Governor J.B. Pritzker, he was flying to Mexico not that long ago. Go check the headlines. He flew to Mexico. He flew to the United Kingdom, and he wasn't going there for sightseeing or tourism or to have a crumpet over in the United Kingdom, okay? He was there negotiating his own free trade agreements. Since when do governors, since when do they play global trade negotiator? I've never seen anybody do this ever. This isn't Illinois, it's Pritzkerstan. It's an entirely separate country of the United States. And not to mention, okay, so he went to Mexico, he went to UK to go negotiate his own trade deals. What? And then he sanctioned El Salvador. Go look this up over their immigration policy, because they said that they'd take Kilmar Abrego Garcia and they'd imprison him because he was from El Salvador and here in this country illegally, and he was an MS-13 gang member, and they were going to imprison him. And he sanctioned El Salvador for that, as if he runs the State Department. Like, what is next? Are we going to have a diplomatic embassy in Springfield? A Pritzker passport? Like, what's next? Because at this point, he's just not sidestepping the Constitution here. He is acting like this is his own nation. When does it become a rebellion? Let me ask this. This is the real question that needs to be asked, and nobody's asking it. Since when does this stop being political overreach? And when does this start being a political rebellion? Pritzker undermines federal authority. He defies border enforcement. He's bowing to global institutions like the World Health Organization. He's propping up these very harmful regimes, hostile regimes economically. He gave Goshen $536 million of your taxpayer money, all while Illinois crumbling. We've got debt, we've got crime, we've got corruption. This isn't leadership. It's lawlessness with a private jet. All right, I want to play Brandon Gill here. He questioned Governor J.B. Pritzker about this Muslim Civic Coalition. I want to get to this. And then I'm going to get to Paulina Luna. Sorry, I'm screaming this morning. I'm really upset about all of this. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, at this point, he asked to be arrested. He said he'd rather be arrested than uphold federal law. I mean, this is beyond political overreach. This is a straight up rebellion we're seeing, I think. Take a listen to Governor J.B. Pritzker here.
Gave a grant to the Muslim Civic Coalition, which just 2 weeks after October 7th was marching in the streets of Chicago to, quote, stop the U.S.-backed genocide against Gaza. Is that a reflection of your values?
I have spent my life fighting anti-Semitism.
No, I'm asking, is this a reflection of your values?
I'm not sure why you're attacking
because
me
your
about something in an
administration
organization.
gave money to this organization.
I'm explaining to you that what we do in the state of Illinois is stand up for what we believe are.
You didn't have to
rights
give
and
money
freedoms.
to the Muslim Civic Coalition.
People
to
have
march
the
and
right
call,
to express themselves.
to stop the U.S.-backed genocide against Gaza. That was your choice.
I know
that was
Republicans want to take away people's right to free speech. We don't in the state of Illinois. And
they've got the right to
that
free
is
speech.
proper.
They don't have the right to tax dollars, and you gave them to them.
You want to take those rights away from people. I understand.
Gentlemen, time's expired.
Right there. I mean, okay, so what Brandon Gill was talking about here is what's called the Healing Grant, the Healing Illinois Grant. This was in 2024. The Illinois Department of Human Services awarded 184 organizations across the state to engage in, quote, racial healing activities. I don't know about you, but calling for the eradication of Israel, which is what this group does, being adversarial with the United States government, calling it U.S.-backed genocide, which up to now we haven't really had. I mean, we've haven't gone in, right? Now, something just happened where Israel bombed Iran yesterday, which is huge. And I really hope that we don't go into one of these forever wars. And I hope that Donald Trump finds a diplomatic solution here soon, because it's going to get really, really bad really, really quickly. And I hope that we don't go in. Unlike Lindsey Graham, who said bring it on. He tweeted out like literally 20 minutes after the bombing, Lindsey Graham, the Republican, and you're so right. I'll take your chats today. Corruption is on both sides. It's not just the Democrats. Yeah, look at Lindsey Graham's tweet 20 minutes after the bombing. Israel bombed Iran. He goes, bring it on. What the hell? You're disgusting. Nobody wants war. But we've got these 184 organizations. Let me get back to what we're talking about today. And this was one of them was the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition. Okay, now Governor J.B. Pritzker has ties to the Adala Justice Project. They have 5-year-olds go out there and scream, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," right? Which really calls for the eradication of Israel as a Jewish state. The Adala Justice Project, the Pritzker family has ties to that. The Solidaire Network, the person who sits on the board, I think, is a Pritzker woman. I forget her name. She's part of the family, but she sits on the Solidaire Network board as treasurer, and they dole out money to the Adala Justice Project. So it's not just this one. I want to be very clear. The Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, there's probably hundreds of these groups that the Pritzker family has ties to. And this is direct taxpayer money, by the way. So it's not just like taxpayer money, but it's also like his own, like the Solidaire Network, backed by the Tides Foundation. Like, I mean, there's clear ties, like even through, like other nonprofit organizations he's affiliated with. The Tides Foundation is also affiliated with Governor J.B. Pritzker. So it's not just the taxpayer. You're not just paying for it. The billionaires are paying for it out of their own pockets. But this is just one example. 184 organizations, 184 of them got these grants. I don't know how much these grants were. I haven't been able to find the numbers. But for a complete list of the 184 organizations, it's quite interesting. You can go to Conservative Cat Facebook page, give it a like, give it a follow while you're there, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel today. So one of those organizations is NPR, by the way. So NPR Illinois is getting these Healing Illinois grants, which is designed to heal racial issues. I don't know about you, but racism still exists today. But despite these grants going out to all of these various organizations, Project Oz, the YWCA in McLean County. So Illinois is funding NPR Illinois, and I worked for NPR, so I know how much these people make. Okay, and they make way above media standard or media industry standard. I was offered a job with NPR permanently. I turned it down despite it being way more than any other job that I had applied for and other people had offered me. I turned down the permanent or the full-time NPR job because I didn't like how communist they were. So I said, nah, I think I'm going to stick with my values and I'm going to turn down money. And since then, my life forever changed. God completely blessed me and the Holy Spirit came over my life because of obedience. Well, I obeyed God telling me, no, you cannot do this. And I said, all right, Lord, I'm going to trust you because this money sounds really, really good. And guess what happened? My life changed for the better. So I want to get to Paulina Luna and this takedown of Governor Tim Walz, because I want to note that it's not just Pritzker who should possibly be arrested for rebellion. And I know that sounds crazy, and you're probably listening to the program today and you're like, oh my gosh, Kat's literally calling for the Pritzker to be charged and arrested for rebellion. I just provided you all the facts about how we need to start asking the questions now. Who does he work for? Who does he work for? He's acting as a global leader. He's working his own global trade deals with Mexico, with the UK. He's sanctioning countries based on their immigration policies. We don't live in Illinois. We live in Pritzkerstan, okay? So let's play Anna Paulina Luna, because she actually went after Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota for the same exact thing. And we need to start questioning why Governor Tim Walz has gone to China, I think, 15 times outside of living there. Who the hell does that, right? And he was going to participate in one of these CCP-backed protests. Let's take a listen to this takedown of Governor Tim Walz as well, because I don't think it's just Governor J.B. Pritzker. We need to start asking who Governor Tim Walz works for as well. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Funded by billionaire Chinese activist Neville Singham, who spends part of his year by living in Shanghai. In addition to that, although he is not a registered foreign agent, he accepts a lot of money from the CCP and then turns around and funnels it right into some of these violent protests that we're seeing. But it doesn't just stop there. This is not the only organized protest that's using brown people and immigrants as a ruse to push their communist and Marxist agenda. Mr. Waltz, thank you for coming in today to testify, Mr. Walz. Real quick, is it true, yes or no, that you are speaking at the June 14th Twin Cities No King rally?
I can't confirm that right now. That could be true.
Okay. Just so you know, they're advertising you speaking there.
Okay.
The graphic's actually on X right now. I'd be happy to provide it for you. So I'll take that as probably speaking. Is it true also, I know on your campaign that you had admitted to visiting China anywhere from 15 to 30 times, sir? Yes or no, please?
I did live in China. And
No, visiting, sir, in addition to living there and in addition to having,
That's correct.
All right. Also, too, I'd like to note that during your time in Congress that you filed for a $5 million earmark that actually was secured. $2 million of it went to the Harmel Institute that actually collaborated with the Wuhan Institute. Also, the Department of Homeland Security, sir, just to you, so that you're tracking, actually had an internal memo that was released that stated that the government of China considered you a prime target for influence operations. I'm letting you know that now because I do believe that you should be made aware of, if you are not already, that you are working with and going to be speaking at an organization and rally that not is just funded by Christy Walton, the heiress of Walmart, but also has ties to the Chinese Progressive Association, largely funding it, that actually brags on their website that they are pro-Maoist. Also, too, funded by the National Endowment for Democracy. I know there's a lot of people on this committee that don't like billionaires interfering in politics, but say nothing when George Soros gets over $260 million from USAID through the last administration that's then funneled into some of these nonprofits and organizations. So I guess my question for you guys is, now that I've made you aware that these riots are not about illegals and they're not about immigrants, if they did, they would have been protesting under Barack Obama, who's also dubbed the deporter-in-chief. And frankly, I think many of you would say that Barack Obama was a good president. Are you going to say that Barack Obama wasn't a good president? Yes or no, Governor Waltz? Do you think he was a good president?
Do I think Barack Obama was
Correct.
the president? I think he did a good job.
Okay, how about you, Governor Pritzker?
I think he did a good job.
Hochul?
Hochul, and yes, he did do a good job.
Okay, next. Perryman?
I think President Obama did a good job.
So then you would understand that Barack Obama had the very same policies for the most part on immigration that Republicans are parroting today. And yet you guys are sitting here saying that we're Gestapo. And what I would tell you is that what happens with open borders is that the real people that are coming here, the ones that are exploited, actually it hurts people on both sides, not just Americans, but the illegals. Some of you had said here to the act funded.
I wanted to play that. That was huge. That was a huge takedown of Governor Tim Walz. I love how she, like, I think she did that on purpose. You should have seen Kathy Hochul's face. She was like fuming because she messed up her name. Like, these people, Kamala Harris did the same thing. Like, when you mess up their name, they like, they lose their mind. And it's like, chill. Like, you know what I mean? So she messed up their name, I think, on purpose. And I think it was brilliant because they were like losing their minds. But the Democrat Party, it's a criminal organization masquerading as a political party. They are CCP backed. They are infiltrating our country. And they are operating outside of the United States of America. Look at what Governor J.B. Pritzker is doing. He's sanctioning other countries. He's making global trade deals with Mexico, with the UK. He's abandoned the federal agents at the FDA, and he's allowed the WHO to become our standard. That's CCP backed. The WHO is the CCP. Goshen, he's giving money to CCP tied companies. I mean, your money to CCP tied to companies. So I want to get to Governor J.B. Pritzker. This one's kind of funny. He said that Abraham Lincoln would be a Democrat today if he were here. No, and I'm going to give you a reason why here, because that's what we do here on the Conservative Cat Show. I don't just, make these outlandish claims. I provide you the facts as to why I have these opinions. So here's Governor J.B. Pritzker saying that Illinois is the best thing since sliced bread, and Abraham Lincoln would be a Democrat.
We have the greatest state in the country, the land of Lincoln, and we say that proudly because we know that Lincoln would be a Democrat today if he were alive. I'm a big believer in taking his values and promoting those, as well as the values now of today's Illinois. And promoting those. And we've done that and frankly succeeded in so many ways to lift people up. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We're proud of you and your leadership. And I yield back.
Will the gentleman yield?
Gentleman yields back. Chair recognizes Ms. Luna
Mr.
from
Chairman,
Florida.
point of inquiry. Did you skip me in the order on purpose? Just curious.
It must have been an oversight, Mr. Moss.
Well, this is
So
the
chair
oversight.
recognizes.
Okay, it's so entertaining by the way, to watch these congressional hearings, because we have the majority in federal government, and it's entertaining because this is not what happens in Illinois. So at a state level, they have a supermajority, and the Republicans are laughed out of these congressional hearings and committee hearing meetings and all of that. So to see the tables turned, quite entertaining, quite fascinating. But to get to Governor J.B. Pritzker saying that Abraham Lincoln would be a Democrat today. Democrats love to talk like they are the champions of civil rights. Honey, scroll past the hashtags, scroll past and look at the history books that they don't teach in school, by the way. And they take those history books out and they've replaced them now with false history in public schools. Get your kids out of public school if you care about them. Here's what you're going to find if you get rid of all the hashtags and the rhetoric, okay? The Democrat Party has been playing this long game. The long game is control, not empowerment, okay? So let's rewind. The Democrat Party was the party of slavery, Jim Crow, and segregation. That's not rhetoric. It's history. Southern Democrats filibustered the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Senator Robert Byrd, do you know who he is? He's a Democrat, and he was the former KKK recruiter. Ring any bells? Robert Byrd, you know that name? Okay, fast forward to today. By the way, Margaret Sanger, a eugenicist and creator of Planned Parenthood, founder of Planned Parenthood. She was a eugenicist. She didn't believe that Black people had the proper genes, and she created Planned Parenthood to eradicate Black babies. Let's just call it what it is, okay? Fast forward to today. Okay, Margaret Sanger, Robert Byrd, these people were nasty, nasty eugenicists. They did not believe that the gene, your insignificant birth trait, the color of your skin, something that you can't control. They didn't believe that the genetic quality of a Black person was of high quality, and they wanted to eradicate Black people. Okay, this is the Democrat Party, the same Democrat Party that was the party of slavery and advocated for slavery. Okay. Fast forward to today. How did they control the narrative now? Welfare, dependency, government programs. Since LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, launched this so-called war on poverty. You guys remember this in the 1960s. It's kind of old, but it's kind of new. He spent trillions. Yes, 25 trillion has been poured into welfare programs. Black poverty, despite all of this trillions of dollars being poured into welfare programs, still high, still stubbornly high. In 2023, 19.5% of Black Americans live below the poverty line. Compare that to white Americans, 8.6%. So here's the kicker. In 1960, 75% of Black children were born to married parents. Okay. In 1960. So what changed? 1960s, war on poverty, pouring trillions into welfare programs, okay, in 1960. Now today, that number has flipped. Over 70% of Black children are born to unmarried parents, or they're born to single mothers or single parents, okay? So they don't have two parents in the household, Okay. Back in the 1960s, that was not true. 75% of Black children were born to married parents and they lived with two married parents. Okay. Fast forward today, not flip that number. It's completely reversed now. That's not culture. That's not community. It's a policy, and we can point to what policy it was that changed that for Black families. Okay. And these welfare programs, what this did, it disincentivized marriage. It punished work. It rewarded absenteeism, all in the name of help. Okay. And the Democrats, they built this system and they keep defending this system decade after decade after decade, because when you're dependent on the government, you're predictable. You vote and you get your check to keep coming on in. That's not compassion, it's called control. They want your vote. They're going to force you for your vote, otherwise you don't get your paycheck. You don't get your check to come in. It's called control, and I'll call it this. It's political plantation politics. And it's happening in 2025. Meanwhile, conservatives, what are conservatives for? We're for school choice. We're for job growth. We're for criminal justice reform. We're for entrepreneurship. Every time we put those ideas out, what are we called? We're called racists. If you're Black and you put out those ideas, you're called an Uncle Tom. You're called a sellout. Truth hurts when it threatens the hustle. See, this is all a hustle. It's all about control. And here's the truth. Strong Black families don't need rescuing. They need opportunity, and they don't need handouts. And we need fathers in the home, not more checks in the mailbox, okay? We need dignity in work, not defeat bureaucracy. And we need leaders to lift, not lock down our communities into these cycles of poverty. In exchange, you vote for us. You'll never get out of poverty, because we're going to make it to where these checks just are barely enough for you to scrape by. And you're going to stay in this cycle of poverty. And in exchange for this measly little check that we send you in the mail, in exchange, we are going to ask you to vote for us. This is all about control. It's the party of welfare. It's not the party of freedom. And you're still relying on them to save you. You're relying on them. That's not freedom. That's called ownership. You're owned. If you're relying on them for your check, and it's a measly little check just so that way you can keep scraping by, and in exchange, they want you to vote for them no matter what, vote blue no matter who, that's called ownership. Let's get to Senator Padilla. I promised that I was going to get to this morning. It's the title of the show. Democrat Senator Alex Padilla. I watched this happen kind of in real time. So the Congressional Oversight Committee hearing, right when Anna Paulina Luna started to talk about the CCP, and when they started questioning these governors about their ties to the CCP, I find it quite interesting. All of a sudden, they broke for recess right after they started talking about that kind of stuff. And Anna Paulina Luna, a true freedom fighter. And like I said, some of these Republicans, I don't know if that was planned, but right when they were getting somewhere, they took a break for recess. And then during recess, this kind of stuff happened. And then they came in, these governors came in with talking points about Senator Alex Padilla and him being arrested. He wasn't actually arrested. He was just brought down to his knees and cuffed. Okay, so Democrat Senator Alex Padilla, he claimed that the vast majority of demonstrators are mostly peaceful. Okay. Despite everything that we've seen with our eyes on social media, we know that these demonstrations are not mostly peaceful. We know that they are violent. Now, I don't know about you, but when somebody comes out and says that these are mostly peaceful, you're not a credible voice, right? When you come out and say like, oh, these protests are mostly peaceful, like right away, your credibility gone, vanished. And he wanted you to jump on the bandwagon. He wanted to gaslight the public into believing and into dismissing all of these videos that have been circulating online that have showed that these are very violent, that there's bricks involved, there's fire involved, there's these masks involved that have been shipped in boxes. Who's giving them the masks? Oh, yeah, that's right. It's being funded by billionaires and the CCP. Nonetheless, what makes this really pathetic is that he started shoving his way past security. Okay, I want to be very clear. He's the one who started it all. And if you or I were to do that, I guarantee that we would have been stopped right in our tracks right there. They tried to escort him out of the room. I simply think that happened because he was a senator and he identified himself here in this clip that we're going to watch. But if you or I were to have taken the same actions as Senator Padilla, we probably, I don't want to say we'd be shot, but we would have been taken down immediately. And he made this a spectacle. Okay, he made this a spectacle because the governors in the other room, they were being asked about their foreign relationships and about their possible rebellion of the United States. Because these are the questions we've got to start asking these people, and it's no longer political overreach we're dealing with. We're dealing with governors who are operating outside of the United States, and they are rebellious, and they no longer want to be a part of the United States. And we need to start asking those questions. When those questions started getting asked, boom, recess, boom, this happens with Senator Padilla, and all of a sudden, all the headlines this morning are going to be about Alex Padilla, and nobody's going to know about Governor Tim Walz visiting China 15 times. Nobody's going to know about the CCP-backed protest. Nobody's going to know about Governor J.B. Pritzker and his ties to China and him using taxpayer dollars to funnel money to Hamas supporting groups. Okay, the Muslim Civic Coalition of Illinois. Let's take a listen to this. And let's watch this because this is important. This is the beginning kind of the clip. We're going to get to another clip that shows it more in detail. This is like almost the middle of the clip. He gets very, very close to Secretary Kristi Noem here. Let's watch this unfold, shall we?
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen current generals that you're rotating on your heads off.
Many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty, how they have been targeted.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla.
Okay. So you saw the same clip. He was shoving this guy first. We're going to get to another one because it shows it a little bit more clearly. But according to Fox News, after loudly speaking over Kristi Noem, Senator Alex Padilla was pushed out of the room by authorities as they ordered him to put his hands up. He would not put his hands up. Okay. So when you're shoving law enforcement on officers, he's got this jacket on. If you or I were to have done this and get very, very close to the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, you and I would have been brought down to the ground. I won't say shot, but these people are trained. These are security officers, and they're trained to take down threats. Okay, we're dealing with also, let's not forget, an administration that has been attacked prior to even assuming the presidency. Donald Trump got shot in the face. Okay, he almost died. Okay, so these people are trained. They've got top of the top security. They're highly trained individuals to take down a threat. Okay, and if you start approaching Kristi Noem in a confrontational, aggressive way, and you start getting close to her, without identifying yourself, okay? He only started identifying himself after he pushed law enforcement, and then they started pushing him back. I think what was actually going to happen prior to them pushing him out of the room, I think that this guy, this shorter guy with the spiky hair, I think that he was going to bring him down, like completely. But then he shouted out as soon as, he was going to bring him down to the ground. I think he shouted out, "I'm Senator." And that freaked them out. And then all of a sudden he lifts up a little bit and he starts pushing him out of the room. Okay. So you can almost see this change in his demeanor as soon as he starts saying, "I'm Senator, I'm Senator, I'm Senator." So this incident happened shortly after Secretary Noem said that the DHS is staying here to liberate the city from the socialists and the burdensome leadership that this governor and this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert in this city. So she was saying that, and right in the middle of that, he goes and he starts engaging here. Clearly this man got triggered by that statement. Hey, we're going to liberate the city from the socialists. and from from the burdensome leadership that is this governor, is this mayor. He got triggered by that. And then, look, if state and local officials just did the bare minimum, we wouldn't be in this month. All we're asking you to do, folks, really, all we're asking for these liberal mayors and for these liberal governors, all we're asking you to do is hold them. Just hold them. We found out that Maria is here illegally. Can you hold them for us? We have a legal deportation order. Can you hold them for us? They won't even do the bare minimum. Okay. So he's aligned himself with policies, obviously, Senator Padilla, with policies that are not in the best interest of Americans, but rather foreign nationals. And I want to play this because, like I said, this is not a credible person. Here's him talking about how, these are mostly peaceful protests, and his credibility went out the window right when he decided to talk about this.
The vast majority of protesters and demonstrators are peaceful. They're passionate. When you come into a community like Los Angeles, the way that the Trump administration has, you need to expect to be countered with people who are passionate about defending fundamental rights, about standing up for due process. The vast majority of...
Okay, so he's got no credibility because you see the videos that I see. You see that these are very dangerous. I would not recommend anybody go to these to counter protest. The people who are screaming abolish ICE. They have bricks being shipped in. They have masks being shipped in. This is very carefully organized and well funded. And stuff like that requires military force. And you will not be able to make it out of there either with your life or you'll be hurt. So I don't recommend you go. You go to these things. Now, the media, they are not going to want you to see this full video. Like I said, I want to play this full video. And here you can clearly see that he starts engaging first, and he pushes one of her security officers. And I think that this was very carefully planned. Like I said, the timing was weird because the oversight committee hearing, I was watching it, they weren't supposed to go to recess. Okay, so the schedule was a little off, but they weren't supposed to go to recess. They went to recess. Okay, so this also makes me question, because this oversight committee is overseen by Republicans. They have the majority. So were they in on it? Were there some Republicans who were in on this distraction and causing this distraction because you had some freedom fighters questioning the ties to the CCP, these governors' ties to the CCP and our foreign adversaries? And we really need to start asking these governors, hey, who do you work for? Are you trying to rebel against the United States? Do you want to secede from the United States? And I think that these are very reasonable questions to be asking. And all of a sudden, as soon as those questions started to be asked, I was like, oh man, right when it was starting to get good and we got past the political theater of it all and we had some freedom fighters like Anna Paulina Luna questioning about the ties to CCP, all of a sudden they went to recess. And then all of a sudden, all the governors came back from recess and they all talked about this incident with Senator Padilla. So let's take a listen to this. Here we go.
Guys, ready? And balancing. Sir, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have a question for the secretary, because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your...
I also want to
hands up.
specifically how many of our ICE agents have been docked.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't my hands, go ahead.
All right,
behind my back.
All right. Cool. One hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here. I did not know. There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right? So what, I'm sorry? There's no recording allowed out here. That's my boss. I have to There's no recording allowed out here. You can record. There's no recording allowed. I'm not a member. There's no recording allowed. I understand that, sir.
Okay, so this is the full video. Now, in the beginning, you see him engage the officer first, and you see him starting to approach Kristi Noem. That is what you saw, and it's really interesting how there was someone there with a camera who wasn't a member of press, and he filmed the entire thing almost like it was a movie, right? And it's really, really interesting, the timing of this thing, because all of a sudden, talking points. I mean, these weren't like from the heart speeches that the governors gave once they came back. These were rehearsed talking points, prepared statements. Now, I understand that, maybe their press teams had enough time to draft up a statement, but it was very odd, all of the timing, and it was performative. Very performative. So he didn't wind up getting arrested or charged for anything, I don't think. And Governor Gavin Newsom, of course, he took to social media and he said, Senator Padilla is one of the most decent people I know. Yeah. And then, this is outrageous. This is a dictatorship. This is shameful. Trump and his shock troops are out of control. This must end now. Governor J.B. Pritzker said, this is highly disrespectful. He's a U.S. senator. Look, I wouldn't call this guy's behavior decent. He's condoning violent protests. I just played the clip. Sure, go off, whatever you say. Governor Gavin Newsom, you can call him decent. I wouldn't call him a decent guy. Anybody who advocates or condones violence or tries to gaslight the American people into thinking that these aren't violent protests, not a decent guy. I would also not call this outrageous. I would say that, in fact, they probably, if it were you or I to have engaged Kristi Noem like this, we would not have been treated with the same kid gloves. I'm just going to be honest with you. When you engage somebody of Trump's cabinet, okay, especially considering Trump has already had a couple of assassination attempts on his life, when you're dealing with that, okay, and these are highly trained individuals, and it took 4 guys to take this guy down. He was resisting. They told him, you've got to leave. They told him, hands up. He continued shoving officers. And, one day, maybe Newsom, maybe Padilla, maybe they will fight for you the way they fight for foreign nationals, but I wouldn't hold your breath. And I want to make something clear. Just because this guy is a U.S. senator does not mean he's immune from handcuffs. Okay, this isn't Jesus Christ we're talking about. This is Senator Padilla. Okay, so he was acting menacing towards the U.S. DHS secretary. In this video, he shoved a law enforcement officer or a security officer, a member of the DHS secretary or the security team, and they brought the guy to his knees. Now, if you or I were to have done this, we would not have been they tried to escort him out of the room. They weren't going to bring out the cuffs, I don't think. I think they were literally just trying to shove him out of the room. And I think they only shoved him out of the room because he kept saying, I'm Senator Padilla, I'm Senator. And that's why they didn't bring him to his knees right then and there and cuff him. They tried to escort him out of the room first because he kept shouting that he was a senator. So he was handled with kid gloves. You or I were to have done this, I don't know. We probably would have been taken down instantly. And this kind of stuff, you don't mess around in press conferences. You don't confront or engage people while they're at podiums like that, sitting people of a president's cabinet. You don't, unless you want law enforcement to grab you. And sometimes worse, like if she were to have been at a bigger event and this would have happened and there was security with weaponry surrounding her. This was just a small press conference in a small room. If you or I were to have engaged and it wasn't a small room type setting like this, boom, taken out. I'm sorry, but that's what would have happened if you or I were to have done this. And if the setting was a little bit different, if it was larger and they had, weapons, security, Secret Service, things like that. If we were to have engaged somebody, she doesn't have Secret Service. She's got the security team, but I'm sure they have guns, right? And but it was a press conference and it was in a small room. So I think that this was very carefully planned. So let's talk about something that's going to send chills down your spine. Law enforcement being punished for helping people. That's right. So I want to get to this story. This is about sanctuary for secrecy here in the state of Illinois. Illinois has essentially banned law enforcement from doing their jobs. Now, I want to make something clear. I don't like the license plate readers as much as the next guy. Anytime the government can look at, your private life. It makes me uncomfortable. However, license plate readers, they're intended for one specific purpose, and that is to ensure public safety. And when you take that one intended purpose away, the only thing that they're going to be used for is for government surveillance of innocent people. So this should send chills right down your spine. Today's story is out of Illinois, and it's not just a local issue, it's a nationwide warning. Okay, because this is so-called land of Lincoln. We've got this Secretary of State, Alexi Orange Julius. Janulius. He has not focused on securing elections, by the way. He has not done anything to prevent identity theft. It's a nightmare to go to the DMV. My poor brother, I have a twin brother. He went to the DMV. He tried to get an appointment several times because now you can't just walk in. You have to get an appointment ahead of time. And he did that. And then he went to go in and he couldn't be seen because they were, quote unquote, too busy. And then he got up there and they were like, well, you don't have enough. And like, do I need to bring my umbilical cord when I go to the DMV? Like, hey, here's my original umbilical cord. Is that enough identification? Do you need more? Do you need my Starbucks receipt from this morning? So what Secretary of State Alexi Orange Julius is doing, he is launching an investigation into a police department for what exactly? Doing their job. So Mount Prospect Police Department in Illinois is under fire. Why? Because they shared license plate reader data with the Texas Sheriff's Office. They were trying to locate a woman whose family feared she was in danger. Okay. They were trying to locate a missing woman. And oh no, Mount Prospect Police Department in Illinois, they shared license plate reader data, which, I mean, like I said, I'm not a fan of the license plate readers. Creeps me out a little bit. And it creeps me out because of this story, actually, because I know that it's never going to be intended for all of the great purposes that they say it's intended for. Now, let's let that sink in a second. Let it sit in your stomach. Let it churn around a little bit. This wasn't about arresting someone. This wasn't about ICE. Wasn't tracking down an illegal immigrant. This was a request from law enforcement in another state to try to make sure a woman was safe. Okay, but Illinois Secretary of State Alexi Janulius, he decided that this was a scandal. Okay, and now he's asked the state attorney general the state's attorney general, Kwame Raoul, to investigate the police. Why? Because Illinois passed a law in 2023 that banned sharing license plate data if it could be used to find someone seeking an abortion. Okay, so, or assist federal immigration enforcement. So you can't give license plate reader data to other out-of-state police officers because, oh no, somebody could be seeking abortion here in our state and they deserve like privacy from that. And like, you can't give it to federal immigration enforcement for the purposes of federal immigration enforcement. Okay, so in 2023, we had that law. Now, let's be clear. This law isn't about protecting women. It's about really what this is about. It's about creating a legal firewall so Illinois can keep operating as a sanctuary state for about abortion and illegal immigration. No questions asked. Okay, that's really what this is about. And it's not about protecting medical privacy. They're shielding people from any and all accountability, including law enforcement from other states. Look, if abortions are illegal in your state and you're going in, you're seeking one in the state of Illinois, I don't know. Maybe you should have law enforcement intervention, right? Maybe there should be some law enforcement, and law enforcement should be coordinating with other law enforcement, okay? So the sanctuary state for abortion, because let's be honest, what about abortion is? It's murder, okay? So if you're going to a different state to murder, they've outlawed murder in their state, and you're going to a different state to commit a crime. Yeah. So it's a sanctuary state for abortion and legal immigration, no questions asked, and they've withheld important data. And like I said, this wasn't about an illegal immigrant. I don't know about the whole abortion thing. Maybe she was seeking abortion. I don't know. But really what this was, a family in Texas was concerned about this woman, and they wanted help and they went to the officers to help find her, and Illinois cooperated and coordinated with the Texas police. And oh no, they're now under investigation for doing their damn jobs. Okay, so you know who gets hurt in all of this? Families, victims, the unborn, by the way, and every law-abiding citizen. So the law doesn't care if a teenager's parents are worried sick, right? It doesn't matter if ICE is trying to track down a convicted criminal. It only cares about enforcing political correctness. This is what this law is all about. And the license plate readers, if we're going to have them, they should be used for what they said they were going to use them for, right? Which is public safety. Let's talk about these automatic license plate readers. You've seen them. They're mounted on police cars, intersections. They're scanning of thousands of plates every single day. They're a very powerful tool, and they should be a tool used for fighting crime. Okay, that's what it was pitched to us, the license plate readers. That was pitched as a, hey, this is going to be used to ensure public safety. And guess what? You get punished for using it for public safety reasons by the state of Illinois. And you know what Alexei Janulius himself said just a few months ago? The purpose of these cameras is to help law enforcement fight crime. Okay, well, here you are punishing law enforcement for doing exactly that, because here's the truth. This isn't about fighting crime. The license plate readers aren't really about fighting crime. It's about fighting your ideological enemies and spying on people. That's really what that's all about. They want to spy on people, and they should be used for the purposes of fighting crime. But when you use them for that purpose, your own government says, no, you can't do that. We're going to punish you for doing that. This isn't an isolated incident. 404 Media, ICE assessed more than 4,000 license plate searches from Illinois just between June 2024 and May 2025. And guess what? That's a problem. If you're a Democrat politician trying to hide your open border policies, they assessed more than 4,000 license plate searches in Illinois. And they came up like, hey, there's illegal immigrants here, and they're in the state of Illinois, according to their license plate readers. And guess what? That's a problem. So that's why they passed this law. They passed the law originally in 2023 to combat ICE from doing this. So now Alexei Janulius and his office is cut off access to 46 out-of-state agencies. So out-of-state agencies, 46 of them cannot have access at all to the license plate reader data. That's right. They're not just investigating one local police department, but they're punishing dozens of law enforcement partners, okay, by not allowing them to access this data for the purposes of fighting crime. But they're like, when they do that, they get punished. It's absolutely insane. So those agencies, they all had the audacity to use the data to enforce the law, okay? And they're being punished now, these 46 out-of-state agencies, for using that data to enforce the law. So I want to zoom out a little bit, and then we're going to get to our very special guest, Chad Burke. But I want to zoom out a little bit because this is also about abortion tourism and us being the abortion tourism capital of the Midwest. According to the Guttmacher Institute, no conservative think tank, by the way, Illinois saw 35,000 out-of-state abortions last year. That's tens of thousands of women coming in from states with protections from the unborn. Okay, for the unborn. So these are states that said, hey, we have a 6-week heartbeat ban. These are those types of states. We've got 35,000 babies dead now because they came into the state and got their abortion here because we're the abortion tourism capital of the Midwest. Now, Illinois lawmakers are doing everything they can to make sure that those abortions happen in total secrecy. So they've shielded out-of-state legal authority from looking into the women who are really breaking the law of their state. If they're residing in that state, they should. Because really, it's murder, and they're going to a different state to commit a different crime. Okay, and that it's just ridiculous. This isn't about choice. This is about radical abortion absolutism. And if I were in charge, I'd say, yeah, let's investigate the women who are violating Texas law. You don't get to come back here. If you want your abortion, go live in Illinois. But if you want to come back here and be a resident of Illinois, you have to abide by our law, or of Texas, then you have to abide by our laws, right? So under these laws, the law in 2023 that was passed, you can't even find a missing woman without violating Illinois law now. So think about that for a second. Let me be blunt. This is happening because they want to abuse their power. The Secretary of State is now threatening police departments for simply doing their job. He's blocking data access to out-of-state agency. I think it was like 46 of them. And we're using public resources to enforce a political ideology, not the law. That's really what we're doing here. It's all about political correctness, and we're not actually using these damn cameras, the license plate readers, for the intended purpose, which is public safety. Here's the scary part. If Illinois gets away with this, all the states are going to follow. Okay, so now we've got states operate. So they don't want to be the United States of America. They want to operate outside the United States. And this is again insurrection. This is again a rebellion where you've got states acting completely out of line, where they are not a part of a nation, but rather little entities, and these little entities are controlled by foreign interests, and foreign adversaries. So they'll turn on the license plate readers and they're going to turn these into surveillance tools. That's really what they're going to turn into, because you can't use them for public safety anymore. They're going to use them for surveillance tools of law-abiding citizens, and they're going to be surveillance tools for progressive causes. And quite possibly, they're going to give that data probably to our good buddies, the Chinese, right? We've already abandoned the FDA, decided to go with the WHO standards. We're giving Goshen, a CCP-backed company, hundreds of millions of dollars. Governor J.B. Pritzker is doing his own global trade deals. Like, at this point, what would stop Illinois from giving the data to our foreign adversaries if they haven't already? I wonder if they will. I don't know. But you want to track a murder suspect? Sorry. You got to check to see if that murderer is protected under our sanctuary clause. Is he an illegal immigrant? You want to stop human trafficking? Sorry. Not if immigration policy is involved and he's an illegal immigrant committing human trafficking. You can't have the data to catch this guy. And it's not just handcuffing law enforcement. This is just common sense, folks. If we're going to have license plate readers, then they should be used for the intended purpose of public safety. Outside of that, if you punish people for using them for that purpose, then what other purposes are you going to be using them for? Are you going to be selling off data to these progressive NGOs, maybe? Hey, this is going to be a great place for you to go and do your riots. Or are you going to be selling it to the Chinese Communist Party? I don't know. The people deserve better. And the local police department shouldn't be getting punished for helping another department save someone or put a family member's mind at ease. This was a missing person. We are no longer governed by leaders. We are governed by activists in suits. These people are activists, and they are not activists for America. They are activists for our foreign adversary. And guess what, Janulius? Real Americans are watching. We're seeing what's happening. We know what this is about. This is not about reproductive freedom. This is about lawfare. This is about surveillance control. This is about politicizing policing. Okay, so claw back our rights, defend our law enforcement, folks, and enough is enough. All right, I want to get to our very special guest. He's been waiting patiently. Chad Burke, good morning. How are you this morning? Thanks so much for joining. Folks, Chad Burke ran for one McLean County Board, lost against Lizzie Johnson, and then he ran for Normal Township Supervisor, lost against Marxist, self-proclaimed communist, right? Crystal Label socialist. She go check out her social media page if you guys think I'm lying about that. No, quite literally, she's
self-proclaimed.
Yeah, self-proclaimed.
On the record, yes.
I wanted to have you on today, Chad, because we got to talk about a couple things. One, I want to get your reaction because I think that you have an interesting take on this whole Senator Padilla thing, where he engaged Kristi Noem at this press conference. Your thoughts there? Because I think you've got an interesting take considering your background, and inform listeners of your background as well, because you are, well, one, you're trained in jujitsu, pretty cool. Number two, veteran. So
Sure. Yes, I served in the Army for a few years. Back in the day, it's been a while. I do have training in combatives, which most of those guys in that room looking out for her safety have training in that. That's a basic form of a style used by law enforcement to take control of a situation like that, where you have someone come in the room and you have to deal with them. It's called combatives. They teach it in the military, law enforcement, and such. It has various levels, and in addition to other martial arts, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and things.
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
these are trained professionals, and
They are heavily trained. That's the A team. Those guys are really good. They reacted very quickly. The man that you saw pushing him took control. I would commend that individual, that agent. That was a bad situation. Luckily, it was a senator. As I read an article today, a CNN security analyst who does security for CNN's staff in situations like that, he was frightened about that type of situation. And he also, even though it was CNN, it was surprising, but he backed that entire situation. He said that was scary that they got that close. He probably used his position to get close and then decided to take his pin off and rush in to make a scene.
oh, he took his pin off.
Yeah, he didn't have his pin on, his senatorial pin.
Yeah, well, only after they started pushing him, the security, that was when he started screaming, "I'm Senator Padilla, I'm Senator Padilla." Only after.
Yes, and that was after when he was in the hallway without cameras. He didn't say who he was. He was just screaming, "I want to talk to Miss Noem." He was screaming. He was very, very physical. Whenever you walk into a room where there's someone of any government position and you are that aggressive, you are going to get some sort of attention from a law enforcement individual. It's your body, the way you are acting. If you walk in and you're just casual, you're fine. But you walk in rushing in at that temperature, body temperature, speed, it's your body language that they're looking at, and you are going to get rushed, at least stopped. And he kept moving forward. If you notice, he is moving towards her, and they're going to separate the two, keep them separated, and pushed him out the door. And it took 2 or 3 individuals. That one guy, if you look at the size of that guy's arms, he's massive underneath that suit. And he was having a difficulty pushing. Mr. Padilla is a big man too, Senator Padilla, large guy. Probably played football, and that guy is. They're tugging at each other beneath that casual face that you see of Senator Padilla. He's pushing very hard against that officer. So it took 2 or 3 guys to get him out in the hall. They did have to take him to the ground. They cuffed him. And then he said, "Wait, I'm a senator. I'm Senator Padilla." And then he got very defensive, got angry with them, berated the officers. Well, they then, of course, confirmed it, took the handcuffs off. They had a discussion. She then had a meeting with him shortly thereafter. There was no apologies made at all, either parties, which that's sorry to hear that, but I don't think she offered should have offered an apology on her part, because she was probably scared to death that a man came charging in to her news press conference.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the history of what's been going on, with President Trump getting shot twice, almost twice, and other things. So I think it was shameful that he did this in that way. There's better ways to do that if he wants to make a shock appearance. And it wasn't a good experience for her. She probably went home that night and had a couple glasses of wine to calm down. And she was able to hold herself together, because I'm sure it caused her to have a adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
That would be frightening for anyone.
Yeah. And if you or I were to do this, I don't think we would have been treated as.
Oh, we would not have been treated as nicely.
No, because here's what happened to me one time on Illinois State University's campus. I was just a student reporter at this time. Governor J.B. Pritzker came to speak. Okay. Now, I wasn't being menacing at all or anything like that. Now, this was back when I was working for NPR. Okay.
Okay. So you had credentials.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had credentials. I had got them ahead of time. I had my big old camera, right? And my stick and everything like that, microphone. I was clearly press. I was wearing an NPR t-shirt. So I had tried to get closer, right? And I had walked and I wasn't very close at all. I had walked a little bit past like where everybody was gathered. Right. And I was trying to get closer for a shot. And the security officer right there looks at me, gives me a very menacing look, brandishes his takes his suit coat and brandishes his firearm essentially. So he sweeps his suit coat and goes like this, and he shows it off his gun a little bit.
So he moved his suit coat aside and showed you that he was armed.
Yeah, that happened. That happened to me. And I automatically, I was like, I'm backing up. I said, I don't have the shot. I'm just leaving. And I walked back around the crowd because I was like, yeah. So like I said, if it were you or I to do something like that, I don't know. I don't know if these security officers are armed for DHS. I've got no idea.
Oh yeah, they're totally
armed. Sure. I'm surprised he didn't, maybe because the setting was very small.
It was the setting. It was because there was people there. She was press conference, and they don't want her to cause any higher level. Just like in the movie with I forget the man's name, but it was made in the 80s or 90s, and he's the bar where he was hired to take care of the bar. They just remade the movie, and he said, take them outside. Just take it outside. It'll come to me later, but take it outside. Don't disturb the customers, or in this case, the press, and it was on camera. So, and you want to de-escalate. Always de-escalate the situation. Never make it any worse. And he put his arms up. You form a block right here. Maybe grab the shirt or the suit coat, and you're taking him outside. You don't want to put him in a chokehold right there. Grab him, take him to the floor. That's all on camera. Take him to the hallway. There's other officers out there. Boom. Now, as far as what happened to you, and he showed the gun, that's very unprofessional.
Yeah, I thought it was odd.
Do that. That's
mean, I have this.
You're NPR.
Yeah, well, I have this mantra. I was like, ask for forgiveness later. You know what I mean? If I get too close, then somebody's going to tell me, hey, you got to step back a little bit. And I'm like, oh, sorry. And then
he could have shown the badge, hey.
Yeah, or something. Or just, tell me, hey, you're getting too close. Can you get back?
Professional would have said, excuse me, ma'am, can you step back, please?
Yeah. But anyway, so I want to get to your Illinois State Board of Elections hearing, because we hadn't talked.
No, we haven't.
Since then. And for background, this has to do with Trevor Sierra. Trevor Sierra had sent an email to county board, a lot of members in the McLean County government. McLean County is in central Illinois, folks. And he had made some accusations that Lizzie Johnson, Cassie Taylor, and some others, he named some others in this email, were illegally soliciting donations, using taxpayer resources, using the government center, and on government time, right, which is prohibited by state statute. And you had actually filed a complaint because actually in that email, I think this part is key. Trevor Sierra said that he actually made these donations and he apologized for that. And he said, I apologize to the McLean County taxpayers, right?
Mhm.
So he had asked for a refund in a text message.
Correct.
Lizzie had confirmed that she was going to give him a refund. So there was also an ethics hearing. So it also violated the ethics, code of ethics for McLean County specifically. So not just a state statute, allegedly, right? We'll have to get to this hearing, but the ethics commission, what happened there? Because you went to a hearing to say, hey, this violates McLean County ethics. What happened there?
At the McLean County Ethics Commission hearing, which they had to reform because it doesn't exist all the time. The board called them back into session. 3 individuals, very nice gentlemen. I briefly got to introduce myself to them after the hearing. They called the hearing. I gathered all my evidence, which of course they had. My opponent was there and countered with by filing a motion to dismiss. So I had to counter with a motion to counter the dismissal. Prior to that, finally, we make it to the hearing. They had seen all the evidence prior to this. Everything happened prior to the hearing. By the time the hearing is there, they already knew what they were going to do. I didn't have to say a word. We walked in, and it lasted 2 minutes. They sat us down. 3 men go into the hearing, and they said, we found that there is enough evidence for ethics, that there was an ethics violation. We recommend that this go to the state's attorney's office for consideration, and we
Because
adjourned.
the state statute, and Chet, I don't know if you can boost your mic level at all. If not, it's all right. I'm just.
You're not hearing it?
Yeah.
Is that
I'm
better?
Yeah, I'm just deaf. But,
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So the commission, they said, yes, there was an ethics violation. We recommend that the state's attorney look at this because there is also a criminal element to this. There's a statute here that, hey, this is a possible misdemeanor, a class B misdemeanor, right?
Correct.
So the state's attorneys got that, and then they were going to go pass it on to the attorney general or something like that.
Right. I believe at this time there had already been an outside investigation conducted by the state's attorney where she had hired a third-party law firm to do an investigation, or that was still being conducted or was in the works. It's been a little while. I can't quite remember exactly. So she then was given this to handle. So the state's attorney had that. At the same time, her own investigation was being conducted because she could not do one because it affected her office because of Trevor Sierra. The sheriff couldn't do an investigation because, again, it affected the county. And so there was a problem with the laws said that they could not, according to the state's attorney's office.
Mm-hmm.
So she has my ethics complaint in hand, and then she has her own that she was doing, and she waited for mine to get done, or she waited for her investigation to get done. It was submitted, and then she got it done. I was able to finally see the investigation from the third party law firm here in town. And
yeah,
when it was released, they said they found no findings at all. which afterwards I found out that the lawyer, Mr. Hunt, had actually had some part in that investigation. So for the defense was involved in that investigation, which I've never heard of a defense having any involvement in an investigation. I was denied any access to any witnesses, anything I was not able to question. Every request I put in for any information was denied as a pro se. And it everything across the board. When I had my initial hearing with the Illinois State Board of Elections, I requested to have 2 people with me online. They were denied access, but yet Elizabeth was able to have her attorney.
Yeah, this is the Illinois state. So simultaneously, I mean, there was this McLean County investigation, and she had this third-party law firm, which was interesting because Michael Butts had a connection with the treasurer, or no, not the treasurer, the Tricia Malott, who ran for county auditor against Michelle Anderson. And really what this question was all about was a referendum. Shall the county auditor position be eliminated, right? And this was a referendum, and they were soliciting donations for vote yes to eliminate the position of county auditor. And this guy had involvement with Tricia Malott's run against Michelle Anderson, who was the sitting county auditor. So I feel like that is a conflict of interest, right? Because Trish Malott ran against the auditor whose position was in question, and you had like all kinds of campaign.
There was,
it was a campaign video, a hit video on Michelle Anderson on behalf of, Trish Malott ran as county auditor back then, right? So that automatically is like, boom, you have a conflict of interest, man, my guy. You probably shouldn't have been selected to be this third party investigator or law firm to investigate this thing through the state.
Yes, and plus his relation, which his father supported, vote yes.
Randy,
and Michael are father and son, and we know that Randy is a big supporter of the vote yes referendum or movement, that Elizabeth is the one who's in trouble for raising funds for at the county office from county employees and staff, which started this whole process. So it's all an incestual relationship at the county level amongst the Democrat Party, which Trevor Sierra allegedly was involved with and self-admitted. It's not allegedly, he self-admitted this and told the county board about it. Then he was fired by the state's attorney because my theory is, and this is my opinion, Randy Knapp found out about it because they called him and he went, "What are you doing? This is illegal."
Randy Knapp, you mean Don Knapp?
Don Knapp, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don Knapp found out about this and told the state's attorney about it and probably demanded that he be fired because Don Knapp is a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
And so he was fired.
I don't know.
That's my opinion. I'm just making a statement off the top of my head.
Yeah. And hey, yes, you come on the show, your opinions are your own, right?
Right. I'm not making anything out there, but that's a theory I have. So then Trevor makes the letter and presents it to the board, making allegations against Elizabeth and Cassie, which we all know what that said. And then nobody does anything. It stops. The letter just sits there. I know that Mr. Erickson tried to take that letter and file with the state police special unit. Nope, they wouldn't do anything with it. So I take head with it, and I win with the ethics board at the county. and it's going up. I also file with the Elections Commission,
The election board, the state election.
the state election board, which is separate. So I have two things going on at the same time. And I win the initial hearing where they will then present it to the full board. So they're like, okay, they accept it. And they don't usually do that with everything. If you get past their first level, it means that I met all criteria. It's their jurisdiction, it's their everything. Okay. So now, just a month or so ago, I had their final hearing before their entire board, their chair, everything in Springfield. And we went in there, I sat before them, and it's, if you've ever been before that, it's ridiculous because they have Zoom call, big billboard thing, and they have Chicago and other people and lawyers. You don't know who anybody is. And I'm presenting my stuff, and her lawyer's on there talking, and I'm doing my thing. And what I witnessed was some of the most ridiculous stuff. They told me that how did they word it? That I was in the wrong jurisdiction.
Yeah, well, they had told you to go to the county clerk. So this is the Illinois State Board of Elections, just for our listeners, if you're just tuning in, and I'll catch you up to speed really quickly.
Sure.
Illinois State Board of Elections, he got past that first hurdle, and they said, yes, this goes before the entire board, the entire State Board of Elections. It's within our jurisdiction. You guys, you've got a complaint here, and we want the Illinois State Board to actually hear it. So you got through the first hurdle. You approach the second hurdle, which is the actual hearing. And at this point, they say, you should have taken this to the county clerk. But I don't understand how the county clerk has any kind of jurisdiction over elections integrity, because you were arguing an integrity statute that she had violated, the election statute, right? And this wasn't like a criminal thing. This was just saying like, hey, we have the State Board of Elections has, ordinances themselves that say, hey, you have to have election integrity.
Yes. And I had looked up the specifics, law and codes under the State Board of Elections, and had written them out just like you have to do. And evidently I had met the criteria, or we wouldn't have been in that second hearing. And I'm presenting it as you would. It's practically like you're having a court case. Okay, they have their counsel, and their chair lady was sitting there, and everyone was asking questions.
Yeah, but it's not. That's what I'm trying to get at, is like, it's not supposed to be like court.
It's not.
Because she wasn't facing at that point misdemeanor or any kind of criminal allegations, anything like that. So it's not supposed to be like court. This is a board. This is to solely find out if she violated Illinois State Board of Elections code. Right. This was just that. So you weren't offered like a public defender at all, right?
No, I was not allowed to bring anyone in.
She had a counselor. She had an attorney.
I was presenting it as pro se, which means that I was acting as my own counsel. I didn't hire a lawyer or anybody. I was not even allowed to bring in a advisor. Like, I was going to bring in a friend who is well versed in government bureaucracy and knows how this process works, has experienced this before. They denied it. Okay. Anything requests I put in, denied. So I'm there myself, and this is a board. It's a little nerve-wracking, but I have dealt with this before. And first off, when I sit there, this was really an odd thing, but the chair lady accused me of being a lawyer. She kept repeating it. Are you a counselor? Are you bar certified? And it was very odd that they would continue. I don't know if it was because I had filed affidavits and motions, and it looked good. I don't know if
she used AI. I love it.
Yeah, because I was using an AI, which who wouldn't?
Yeah, of course.
And and I had countered all of her lawyers' various dismissal letters and things, or what it was. But I had to get past that, and then their lawyer was saying things like speaking in legalese, which I caught a third of it because they're talking fast. It's over Zoom. I don't know who's talking because you can't see, and I can't hear anyway because I have, from the military, I can't hardly hear. And then I'm just like, okay, whatever, just do your thing. Let me get through this and then say my speak. So I get to say my speak, and I'm talking about how this process has happened, how they have raised money for this cause against possibly my campaign against her. I don't know how it was used. And then they have.
I mean, if they were collecting cash, how do we know?
How do we know?
Yeah.
And then I said the election committee, the board, has not historically ever done anything about this, like the case that happened a couple years ago in Champaign. And then at that time was when Dan Fletcher was fighting the vote yes against the school Unit 5. I was one of the other board members immediately said, you can't talk about that. This is inappropriate. You can't bring your beliefs in here and blah, blah, blah. I said, whoa, this is my time,
Yeah.
And we had a little back and forth. And so I continued after he.
So to catch our listeners up, Dean Fletcher had a similar problem where nobody seems to want to take up election.
They refused his.
Yes. They refused the Illinois State Board of Elections. This was a complaint against the Unit 5 school, or I think all of the schools, the McLean County schools, because they had put some really electioneering paraphernalia. They had said, we're encouraging you to support the, what was it, a sales tax increase, a 1% sales tax increase referendum. And they had put this on their taxpayer funded websites. And you can't do this because it's against state statute. There's a criminal statute. It's a misdemeanor. If you use taxpayer resources to electioneer or to promote, I mean, that's straight up propaganda, right? There's a reason why we don't do that here in the United States of America, because that's similar to what the CCP does, right? Where they take money and then they like posters of Xi Jinping up, right? And say, hey, go vote for Xi Jinping.
Go vote. Yeah.
Go vote.
Vote for your nearest commie,
Yeah,
Yes.
like vote for us to continue to tax you, and we're going to use the taxpayer dollars to tell you to continue to vote for us to continue to tax you. So it's just craziness. So they shut down Dean Fletcher, but you actually got past this first hurdle. You're there.
Yes.
And they're just treating you disrespectfully, right? That's what's done.
Yeah. Yes. And they were like, you can only talk about what is on the agenda, what you have filed on your paperwork. Basically, I have to keep it on topic. So I said, okay, whatever. I'm talking about the same topic, election integrity, and you don't like what I have to say because you have historically. Anyway, so I stopped. I did what they told me to do, and I continued. But I was getting really frustrated because at the same time, I'm looking at this huge board in front of me where they have the Zoom calls, and I see, and I told them about this in an email, the chair lady who had and I'm rambling, but the chair lady in a previous, and I got to sit there all morning and watch them do their various activities against other campaigns who had mistakes and made mistakes, and they got to pronounce $3,500 fines for stupid stuff that they could have just said, okay, next time do better. But they didn't. They would go all out. And she was brutal, mean, just a mean person. And she told one guy who was just being as nice as could be, he was a one-man show campaign, and she's like, you sit down, you shut up. And she's treating a citizen like this, okay?
Somebody who runs for office. And
yeah.
I mean,
I'm telling you, she was mean, vile person. So I'm sitting here doing
I've got
my
no
thing.
idea who this person is. But
I would have to look up her name. She's a
have to
chair
look up
lady
of the
of the
Illinois
board.
State Board of Elections.
Yeah,
So
horrible person. And she takes her, she won't leave her camera on herself. She pushes it aside, but I can see she's smoking. So I know she's at home. So she's not even going into the job, and she's smoking. And I was tempted to just light up right there, like, you know, pull one of those,
yeah, like the
like you
amount
see in court cases.
if this happened, I'd have to review the footage, and believe me, I'm going to place FOIA for all of it.
I'm going to too. Yes,
because I'd love to catch this woman smoking on camera.
Oh, it has to be. If they give you the Zoom stuff, and try to get it for just Chicago camera, you know, because it'd probably be a better shot. But yeah, you can see it, and everybody, they were scared to death of her in that. They wouldn't even talk because she would say, "Quiet there in Springfield office, quiet. I can't talk." And I'm like, whoa. They were scared because they were whispering at me, like, "Be quiet. It's her turn to talk." I'm like, I'm the important one.
Work for me.
I'm the citizen.
Here's how this.
And they're like, no. I said, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's on camera or not, but yeah, they were whispering to me stuff because they were afraid of her.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Well, and here's how this works. The Illinois State Board of Elections, they are supposed to be advocates of the people, right?
Nope, that's not how they feel.
Yeah, and they're
It
they're appointed, I believe, by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, because that's how most state agencies are. This is a state agency. I'd imagine that they are a paid state agency. That there's people.
Oh, I bet they get a stipend. Yeah.
Yeah, some sort of stipend to do this, and I'd have to look into how much they are paid. But they're there to work on behalf of the taxpayers. So you're there lodging a complaint. They're supposed to investigate this complaint and come to a decision, a ruling. So was there an actual decision made that day, or did they kind of just say, we don't have jurisdiction?
Well, first, after my long argument, which I kind of got frustrated on, and I wasn't as effective as I wanted to be because of my emotions kind of got away from me. And I started arguing with, I believe it was a counselor. I don't even think it was a board member. It was their counselor in Springfield over some of my dismissal letters and affidavits I had filed. And after her lawyer spoke, and he was saying things about me that were not true.
Of Hunt law.
Yes.
And he was representing Elizabeth Johnson in this board hearing. It was just so
he was actually yes. And he was actually saying things that I had filed dismissal letters that had been, see, there's no judge, so I can't say that they had been stamped of approval, but they had been shown to be false by my facts. But he was still saying them over and over again because he had nothing else to say. And so
you and the false statements would be that you had done this because you were disgruntled about
I was mad and blah.
There's so like that has to be argued because you sent harassing text messages to Lizzie. No. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a level of proof to come out and say a statement that, hey, he's just doing this because he's a disgruntled candidate and he's a like sore loser, right? You have to come out with factual evidence. Like had you gone out on social media and said, I'm so pissed that Lizzie won. She shouldn't have won. She stole this election prior to this letter coming out.
Never, ever. Matter of fact, one of my opening statements, I said, what I'm about to say is not my complaint. I am complaining on behalf of another citizen who filed or sent an email to the board. And this is the information that I have gathered.
Mm-hmm.
To make this complaint, and the chair lady said, so you weren't even there to witness this? You haven't witnessed any of it? I said, I don't have to be to file a complaint. I just have to know about it and gather my own information. I don't have to witness a complaint to file it. I don't have to see a person get raped to file a police charge if the person tells me about it later. Do I? You know, I said, you, and she was trying to say, well, we don't have to hear this then. You know, that was her argument. I said, your logic is false, is invalid.
Yeah.
They were trying to do anything they could to end it. So at the end, the counselor was speaking, other people were speaking so much. They were talking over each other, and it's difficult to hear. But they ultimately said that I was in the wrong jurisdiction, that they didn't have jurisdiction over this, which made nonsense. I was like, we're in Illinois. This was an Illinois election. I'm not in Indiana. I said, did I drive to Indiana or Missouri? No. Yeah, I just didn't understand how this is not your jurisdiction.
The thing is, we have no, and here's what is really BS about the whole thing, Chad, is that we have no accountability over our elections here in this state, despite the taxpayers paying for an entire board, an entire state agency called the Illinois State Board of Elections. They are not serious about holding those accountable who
No, they're not.
Committed.
Nobody will. The state police doesn't. The state board of elections. Why do they exist? Why do they exist? It's asinine. They do nothing.
Chad, I just love that. Like, if you could sum up Illinois politics,
this is it.
Exist. Why do they
exist? They do nothing. It's a salary. It's a power play so they can go to conventions and boards and tea parties and go, I'm on the Illinois State Board of Elections. Thank you.
Cigarettes.
That's literally what, and smoke a cigarette. Yes. You better listen to what I say, because that's how they act. It's all this arrogant baloney.
And like, I'm kind of disappointed that Trevor Sierra, because you had have you contacted him and did you want him to participate in this complaint at all?
I did. And I knew he had to be careful being, terminated, and he's probably trying to get a job somewhere. So I contacted him a few times. He did reply back a couple, 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 times. I can't remember exactly how many. And I asked him, I said, hey, is there anything you can give me that wouldn't jeopardize your future? And he was like, no, not really. I pretty much put everything in the letter and in the media, whatever. So the day before this hearing, I reached out one more time, and I was very careful about wording it. And I said, I will not say where I got this. I said, I probably have something that I can link this to find it. Just give me a thread. Give me one little thread of something to help me win this, because I'm close.
Mm-hmm.
And no. And the answer he gave me really wasn't. It was kind of like, leave me alone. And it's hard to actually describe, but it was even more than that. It was kind of like, an arrogant answer. And
I know
implicating answer, to the point that I wish I would have included him in this complaint, because I think there's more to it on his side. And I think the state's attorney needs to investigate him. I really do.
Well, I mean, he implicated himself, right?
He did.
So he really did. I mean, according to his own emails and his text messages, he
sure
donated did. And he was asked for a refund after he realized, or after he was, I don't know, perhaps caught, or after he realized what was going on. I mean, he's an attorney, right? He works in the state's attorney's office.
He was the ethics guy. He was the ethics guy over there.
Yeah.
So he could have been telling Cassie, this is fine. You haven't broken any laws, Cassie. I don't even know if she really did anything wrong. I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, and at first the way the media had kind of portrayed Cassie Taylor, they tried to portray her as the gal who did this thing.
And that's when my spidey senses went off about her.
Yeah.
So I focused solely on Elizabeth, and I had a lot of information from the public saying yes about a lot of people over there being very guilty about that. I didn't hear anything about Cassie.
Yeah, yeah, where they were donating and they were
Mm.
donating while they're on company time or on company. I say company on taxpayer time.
On taxpayer time.
Yeah, in
Yes.
a taxpayer-funded building, like you can't do that kind of stuff. And you know who really was the guy who started this kind of stuff in Illinois? Michael Madigan.
Madigan.
And he's supposed to be sentenced. I think that they delayed his sentencing. Most likely, he's not going to see the inside of a jail cell. We'll see.
No.
But this is the Michael Madigan type of politics. And, you know, I have to say allegedly, just so that I'm protected.
Allegedly.
Michael
Yeah.
been convicted of any kind of misdemeanor. There was an Illinois State Board of Elections hearing that had happened. They tried to say that, oh, we don't have jurisdiction and you should have gone to the county clerk, which is a brand new.
That's what they told me.
Which
Yes.
is
And that
the state place, go to Attorney General, go to.
what is she going to do at the county clerk's office?
I don't-
What authority does she have? And I talked with her, and she told me, yeah, come in and make a complaint. And you know, she is so busy.
Yeah.
She is so busy doing other things. I could and may, but the state's attorney already has it, and she's supposed to send it to the AG. I don't even know if she has. I doubt it, because I called the AG and they don't have it. There's no case number on it. Why not? And I called the AG. I called the AG's office, and they're supposed to represent us, the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lady in that office said, when we get it, we're going to represent Elizabeth, right? I said, no, you're for the people. No, we represent all the people of the state people. I said, well, that's the opposite of your job. You're attorney general for the people.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand their position or the Constitution over there.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, when we talked with Dave Shostokis back when he was running for Attorney General, it really opened up my eyes, is that the Attorney General has no idea what their role is exactly in the state of Illinois, which is to be kind of like a watchdog against government. That's really what they're
That's what he's supposed to be doing. That's what
be doing.
all they're supposed.
They're
Well, they
supposed
all
to
make an oath.
the state's attorneys. And I understand why they, did this third party or wanted to hire a third party law firm to conduct an investigation. At first, I was like, that's kind of ridiculous. But you look at the email, Erica Reynolds' name in the email. So she couldn't conduct the investigation without it raising like
They could have hired a special prosecutor or another state's attorney from Livingston, another county,
a separate county, right?
Separate county, who
Maybe.
has taken an oath to the Constitution.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That other lawyer did not take an oath to the Constitution.
It's weird. It's just weird.
It's weird. And any other law firm, besides one connected.
Well, at first they shouldn't have gone to the third party law firm or private law firm, who, by the way, Michael Butts has a familial relationship with Randy Butts, who has done hit piece or like a hit campaign ad on Facebook about Michelle Anderson, who this whole thing is kind of about, so that kind of raises question there. But like, it should have gone to the Attorney General right away, because the Attorney General is supposed to be kind of a watchdog over all the state's attorneys in the state. Like, that's essentially what they're supposed to do. And they're supposed to, like, hey, if like a state's attorney drops the ball in a prosecution of some kind, then they're supposed to prosecute the case separately. So they're supposed to like be almost a watchdog. But anyway, we took up a lot of your time today, but I appreciate you, Chet, coming on.
Anytime, girl.
See what happens. So the Illinois State Board of Elections hearing happened, and they didn't give you an official ruling. They said that official ruling, if Lizzie Johnson violated their code of ethics, that is supposed to be given July, August.
Yeah, they may have said we're not going to in all the mumbo jumbo ending, but the official paperwork, I think they said, will be released at that July, August time. But I know they're not going to do anything from what they
here.
said.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So they're gonna issue their ruling, and at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we got to make sure that we're not using taxpayer resources for campaigning or electioneering, and even if there is like a sniff of that going on, right? I'm not saying, because there's been no authority who has said that yes, Lizzie Johnson has done this, right? We just have that email where a credible source, an attorney within, essentially a whistleblower of sorts, he blew the whistle on him, and that's all we've got. So
that's right.
It sucks because it's like you don't have a country if you're using taxpayer resources to campaign for issues or candidates. Like it'd be similar to if I was at the McLean County Justice Center, or the government center there. If I was there and I hung a huge Trump 2028 flag from the rooftop and covered the entire building with it, right? I mean, that would be wrong. So yeah, we got to make sure we're doing this stuff because we don't have a country if we don't.
Yeah, I agree. My next big thing that I'm going for is to open up the county office for anyone who's going to be pro-saying themselves for anything. Right now, if you walk into the county and you have a court or any hearing, and you're not a lawyer, you're not barred, you can't have your cell phone with you. I don't know if you're aware of that. It's the rule. Or any civilian cannot, which, I understand the reasons why, for security purposes, and there was an issue. But McLean County is the only one in the state, and it's because the judge, the top judge there, decided. That was it, because this Illinois Supreme Court said that you can bring in cell phones into the court, into the court building, not into the courtroom. Now, if I'm pro se representing myself, and the other guy has a lawyer, the lawyer can bring his in. I can't. What if I have all my information on there and I need it for my court case? It's not fair. And I have actually experienced that being a problem myself, as self-representing myself. Sometimes I think there needs to be a different setup here in McLean County. I know specific cases where it's been abused by a barred lawyer because of monetary reasons. The family couldn't afford lawyers, and they pro-sayed themselves. And we need to make a change. There needs to be a way to make that happen, and that's going to be my next, process of seeing about getting a change.
Changing that. Well, good for you.
I just wanted to put a little thing out there. So if anybody wants to, give me help on that, or knows a way to make it happen, or knows anybody there I could talk to, shoot me an email or a text or something. So
yeah. Hey, give your email. You guys can always email me too, conservativecatbarker@gmail.com, conservativecatbarker@gmail.com for your news tips. If you have any questions. So Chad, do you want to give your email?
Yeah, it's cburk, BERCK @gmail.com. cburk@gmail.com. Thank you.
All right. Well, Chad, thanks so much for joining us. And that has been the Conservative Cat Show today. We went over a little bit. It's a daily show, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., Monday through Friday. Be sure to smash that like buttons and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out, folks. And follow me on Rumble and follow me on Facebook. Until next time, bye-bye. Love you so much. Talk to you soon.